Hey Blake, who's been some influential pastors in your life?
Well, I would say the first pastor that made probably the biggest impact in my life was Brooks Kale. He is currently still the senior pastor at First Baptist Church of the Islands in Savannah, Georgia. I remember as a sophomore in high school, Brooks was the interim pastor for our church. And I remember looking over to my dad and hearing him preach and thinking, why isn't he our pastor? And lo and behold, about 6 months later, he was considered to be the next pastor. And he's been there now since 2002, so about 20 years. I think some of the things that the Lord used Brooks in my life, I think first of all, his kindness. He's always had a reputation as being a kind man that others in the congregation looked up to and respected, and a humble man. Also, he just genuinely cared for me. When I was first exploring the possibility of being a pastor, he would meet up with me probably once a month, allowed me to serve in different areas of ministry in the church. And so his interest in me and his kindness towards me has certainly made an impact. There's Gary Johnson. Gary was a pastor at Woodlawn Baptist Church for about 17 years in Garden City, Georgia, about 15 minutes or so away from Savannah. And Gary and I didn't have a lot in common except Jesus. And one of the things that Gary had an impact on my life was his prayer life, and particularly praying for me. I can remember being in my early 20s and sharing with him different temptations and struggles and challenges I had, and he was always persistent in telling me that he was praying for me. And I can even remember one time being at his house, and he actually got down on his knees and prayed for me and laid his hands on my shoulders as a grown man, just showing that humility and kindness. And I think more recently, Mark Dever, a senior pastor at Capitol Hill Baptist Church in Washington, D.C. Mark has been an influence in my life in a variety of ways, both as a theologian, as a local church pastor, but also a friend. He took a huge investment in me into my mid to late 20s and early 30s. And his writings, his preaching, but really his example of thinking about the church around the world, but also helping other churches become more healthy, has been one of the biggest inspirational influences. So those three brothers in particular, Brooks Kale, Gary Johnson, and Mark Dever, have certainly been a big influence in my life.